Hello everybody, Danny from Deepsouth Homestead, back on porch time again this morning. As you can see behind me, we actually have a slight breeze blowing this morning. Very nice. Overcast, something we haven't had in like 4 weeks now. Oh, and guys, looking at the extended forecast, there's still no break for us. I looked out 8 to 10 more days. It's still in the high 90s. Heat indexes probably will still be over 100 degrees. We've just given up on gardening right now. We're not even going to try because there's no need. We have no water in our land. My running creek down here is dried up now. We're having to run water for the cows. We're having to run water for the pigs, and they're in swamp bottoms, and there's no water running. So the ground has completely dried up for us. So there's no need in us trying to put out anything right now. But we knew these days would come. We've told y'all about the grand solar minimum and the weather anomalies that's taking place. We've tried to talk about that as much as we could. It has begun to happen for us here, and I know a lot of you all are in the northern part of the United States, and you're talking about how wet and how cool it is. Well, that's not the case down here. It is 8:57 in the morning. The heat index is probably, well, I was at the house just a few minutes ago before I came over to the cabin here. The heat index was already 98 degrees. So today's going to be another one of those hot ones. And the fact that we have a slight breeze every so often that will blow through here, makes it a little bearable right now. And the overcast, the humidity is extremely high. We're just locked in this pattern where the intervergence, I forgot exactly the words. I looked it up the other day. The subtropical intraconvergence zone, I think I got that right, has moved way north now of the equator up here where it's warmer at, and it's actually bringing that subtropical jet stream up here where we are, making us hotter than we normally would be this time of the year. Usually we would be kind of cooling off at night here. In the days we might still get up in the high 80s, but that would be about it. But not this year. The jet streams moved up from the equator down there, and it's going to be what it is. We told y'all when it got hot, it would be hotter than it normally is. And when it got cold, it'd be colder than it normally is. And what we're going to be looking at this year, I'm really afraid, is we're in a drought right now. They're not showing any rain for us. One little slight chance, I think it's like a 30 or 40% chance one day way in next week. What's going to happen here is we'll probably go from being extremely dry like this and hot till all of a sudden the cold fronts will start coming down and push that the subtropical jet stream back down toward the equator, and it'll just turn off bitter cold for us, and we won't even really have a fall at all, and we won't even have an opportunity to get our plants in, because then it'll probably start getting a little bit of rain showers in here, and when we do, it'll be too cool to actually get anything to functioning like it is. Now, we do have a few tomato plants out that we're watering. We put some right here beside the cabin the other day, and got up the next morning, and insects had done eat them off. They were completely gone. That's one of the problems that we have in this extreme heat. I walked through the butter pea patch this morning. They're blooming like crazy. Got butter peas all over them because they just love the heat. The plants are starting to be under stress. If they had water, now they'd be producing abundantly. But walking through it, the stink bug cycle has done come back. They're starting to hatch out now. There's no telling how many stink bugs I killed by hand. And these big old giant green grasshoppers, I got a bunch of them out of there, caught them, snapped their necks and threw them in the bucket of the tractor to feed to the turkeys. So guys, we're facing that time now. And when we go through these times, what's going to happen to the people now? And this is going to be the topic of Porch Time today really is, where has the Spirit gone? Now, we're not talking about the Holy Spirit. We're talking about, where is the Spirit of the people gone? And guys, just like what I'm facing here on our land, now we were an hour and something north of us this past week at Wanda's reunion. We didn't get on Saturday night. We didn't get to do our live stream because of it. We wanted to go to her 40th class reunion. And while we were up there, we saw the same exact things. Talked to the people. They're facing the same exact things with the dry climate and the high heat there as we are here. And God, what that does, guys, is it pulls the Spirit out of you. In other words, like here, I'm not even going to try to plant anything. There's no need in it for me to try to do anything here, because in this kind of heat, I can't get a cool season crop up. If I plant a warm season crop, it's too dry for it to come up. I would have to spend tons of money on irrigation and stuff like that to just even get it in row covers, because the grass would come up so fast. I mean, grass is taking over everything. It's just not worth it right now. And it kind of takes the wind out of you, because we were looking so forward to getting a fall crop started late September, you know, getting it in mid-September, late September, early October, getting things going. My pastures have all dried up. I mean, there's no grass in them. I'm having to, this coming week, I'm going to have to move my cows to another pasture out front out here that's been laying all summer. Trying to get some grass growing in it, because it's kind of a new place. We're going to be moving the cows into it, and we're going to try to move the pigs at the front around to the back here if we can get a few little things done to their pen there. Guys, when you face these kind of things, it just it takes the wind out of you, or it takes your spirit from you. You sit back in the heat and you just go, I'm just not going to get out there and do anything, because it's just too hot. Now, a lot of y'all up north would say, man, I wish we had some of that heat. You know, and we would say, man, we wish we had some of that cool. It all depends on where you live at as to how it affects you as far as your spirit's concerned. Up there, if it's too wet and too cold, which I'm seeing some of those places, then you're saying, man, what good is it for us to get out? We put our plants out and it's just too cold. They're not growing. It's too wet. The roots are rotting. You know, they're just drowning. The bottom line is this: we all have our obstacles or our challenges where we live. Now, for me to say there's a perfect place somewhere, you know, that's probably not going to happen, because I don't believe there's really a perfect place. Now, there may be what's called microclimates in certain places around the United States that's doing really good right now, because their temperatures are perfect. They're getting the right amount of rainfall. I mean, these things happen. Even in the year without a summer, back in the 1815, 1816 area, there was microclimates then, because people migrated to those places because there was food being grown there. And guys, this is what we're going to be facing in the future. People are going to be searching out microclimates. Places where the weather seems to be doing okay, you know. The jet streams have moved, the pole shifts have happened, all these things, and you can't grow here because it's too wet or too cold. You can't grow there because it's too hot or too dry, but there's this little section right through here that, man, it just seems like everything's doing well there, and people will migrate to that. And that's where we have to be careful with our spirit, is to make sure we don't get down and we say, oh, we throw our hands up in the air and say, you know, what's the use? There's no sense in even trying to grow anything. It's too hot here. It's too dry here. Or it's too wet. It's too cold. I'll just go to the store. You know, we just like, well, this thing of trying to grow something's for the birds. You know, we just quit. We lose our spirit. And I was talking to a gentleman here the other day when Wanda and I were gone. We talked about how that if we had another 9/11 in this country, would we come together like we did in 2001 when we had the Twin Towers went down? Would this country overnight pull together like it did? And he and I come up with the conclusion sitting there talking that no, it probably would not. simply because the last presidential election we had this nation completely divided in half. I mean, literally, it was almost 50-50 right down the middle. And if that's the case, then I really don't see a nation pulling together in a crisis, because we're just too hell-bent on having our way. We're not willing to see the other person's side of a situation. We're like, no, it's either my way or the highway, you know. And granted, there's some ways out there that's really wrong. I'm not trying to say that there's not, because there is. And when people face those things and they talk about those things, they're so adamant that if I can't have it my way, then I just ain't going to have it at all. And that's where we're at in this country. So I believe if we had another major crisis like 9/11, I honestly believe that it would really be catastrophic for this country. Because me personally, I do believe the hand of God has been lifted off this nation. I don't believe we have the protective power that we once had, because this nation has stood up. It has shook its fist in God's face and said, no, we will do this and we will do that. You know, we will not do this and we will not do that. And we know from example in Scripture, when Israel did that, God allowed them to go into captivity, or he allowed some other country to come in and just take them over, or they just lost most of their land to someone else. I mean, there's all kinds of things. Financial collapses happen, famines happen, pestilences come in and destroyed their lands, droughts, all of these kind of things happen. Guys, I believe we're there. And, you know, I guess the one thing that startled me more than anything else this past week in preparing today's video was I was talking to a teenage boy that was a senior in high school. And I told him, I said, wow, I was looking around. I mean, they had this new gymnasium. This thing was nice. It was really nice. Air conditioned, really cool. I mean, ours just had windows in it. We had no air conditioning. You just had to sit in them back when I was in there. But this thing was air conditioned and everything. And I was talking to him, I said, dude, I said, I bet y'all have some awesome pep rallies on every Friday during football season. And he looked at me and he said, well, not really. And I told him, I said, what? I said, they don't do pep rallies anymore? He said, well, they allow us to do one or two, maybe three, something like that a year. He said, but we're not allowed to do any more than that. It just floored me for all of a sudden. I took a step back and I said, look, I said, what has happened? And he said, well, I'm sad to say this to you, but they say we don't have enough spirit anymore to be doing pep rallies. I looked at the gentleman and I said, is everybody medicated? Is that why? Because I was sitting there, my mind was trying to figure out, teenagers have lost the spirit, you know, and young adults, and he said, no, it's not that. I said, well, I've never seen a group of young people that couldn't stir up a ruckus, you know. And he reached over on his side and he did this right here. He said, that right there is why. I said, you have got to be kidding me. He said, no, when they try to do a pep rally and they try to get everybody riled up, he said, everybody's sitting here doing this right here. They're looking at a phone. They're not even paying attention. They can't even get enough of them to put the phone down long enough to get them to stand up and cheer their football team. He said, so they took the pep rallies away. And he said, so they told us we just don't have enough spirit. Now, guys, that's sad. Technology, in one form or another, is destroying the people of this country. Now, it takes technology for me to sit here and do this with you. And I totally understand that. But this technology that I'm using between you and me is not going to dictate my joy that I have. If I don't have this technology, I'm okay. My everyday life is going to carry on just like nothing else ever happened. If I have this technology and I can use it like I need to, then I'm going to enjoy it. You know, I don't know how else to put it, but to say that the youth of this country has lost its spirit because of a technological advance called a phone is just heart-rending. We have failed. We put one of these phones in every kid's hand. And as a result, we have a socially illiterate group of people coming up in this country that have no social skills whatsoever. If they're sitting across the table from someone, rather than look them in the eye and ask them a question, they pick a phone up and they text them. How sad is that? I probably told y'all the story about a friend of mine who was in New Orleans, and they walked into a restaurant down there, and they seen this table of people sitting over in the corner. They wanted to sit on the table next to them, and they seen all their heads leaning over. And well, out of respect, they said, well, they're praying. We don't want to disturb them. So they kind of held off about going to the table. And they said, wow, they sure are praying an awful long time. And one of them walked around and looked and said, no, I don't think it's the fact that they're praying. They all were sitting there with one of these things right here in their hand, in their laps, looking down, texting back and forth. They weren't praying, they were texting, waiting on a meal to come. There was no conversation at the table whatsoever. All it was they were sitting there, every one of them was either texting one another or texting somebody else. None of them were talking to each other, even though they were all around the table together. How sad is that? This new generation of people that we have coming up probably will, we're seeing it today. I mean, when I get on the phone with someone in customer service or anything, if I have an issue with something that I've ordered, and I'm trying to talk to customer service, the person on the other end of that phone with me 99% of the time has no skills whatsoever about dealing with a situation that someone has. Better yet, even knowing about the product that I'm calling about. Guys, technology has robbed this country of its American spirit. Used to, people would stand up and be proud for America. That's not so anymore. You start saying something about another country now, or start talking about our country, and half of them's like, yeah, we live in this country over here. They just go to down in the country. They go to talking bad about it. And you know what I tell them? I tell them, say, look at Venezuela. Take a good look. That's socialism for you. That's what it'll do for you. Because those people have lost their spirit. Everything's been taken from them. They want to fight back, but they don't know how. They don't have the spirit to do it anymore. And guys, that is what's happened with the fluoriding of the water systems, the fluoriding of toothpastes and all this kind of stuff. They've come in here and told us, they said, oh, this stuff is great for your teeth. It keeps you from having cavities, and there is an element of truth to that, but what they ain't telling you is that fluoride pacifies the brain. It also makes the bones in the body like crystal. It makes them so crystal, like glass. That's why a lot of elderly people are falling, breaking up all the pieces now. A lot of people are breaking bones now. Your teeth are breaking. Something that they used to just never do. Guys, all this is because our bones are being crystallized in our body and our brains are being pacified where we have no resistance anymore to anything. It's all part of a master plan. It's called taking away the people's spirit. We all heard this thing called dumbing down America. Guys, it has happened. America has been dumbed down. It's not that we're getting smarter. They're dropping the standard. I sit and talk with different people about things that I learned in elementary school. They're not even finding it out till they get to high school. If they get it then. Especially historical things. I'm just amazed. I don't classify myself as being a very academically, I'm trying to find the right words, educationalized, or if that's even a word, intelligent human as far as a lot of the stuff that's just being taught in colleges now and things like that. When I went to school, we were just taught how to learn. We were taught the basics. Reading, writing, arithmetic. We were taught all that stuff. And granted, I didn't learn real arithmetic until I got out of school and was on my own. It was then that I actually got it. And I could do angles and fractions and stuff like that. It was because it was just get them through here. Just get them through here. Just get them through school where they can get a job, back then. And Wanda went to school at 50 years old and was more intelligent than the kids straight out of high school coming into college. She knew more than they did. And they just come out of high school. She was blown away. The spirit of the people of this country has been taken away. And it is so sad to see that today. And guys, I just encourage you. I want to be an encouragement. I want to tell you, don't let things get you down. This weather anomalies we're having, these droughts and cold and heat and wet, all these kind of things, don't let it get you down. Sit down like we're doing. Try to figure out what can we do to beat this. What can we do to grow food differently? Do we need to put up shade cloths? Do we need to put the barriers on the ground? Do we need to put trickle irrigation systems under some black plastic? What do we need to do? Do we need to do aquaponics? Do we need to do hydroponics? Do we need to do greenhouses? Do we need to do hoop houses? Do we need to do high tunnels? What do we need to do to survive the coming collapse in this country? Do we throw our hands up in the air and say, well, it ain't worth it? Or do we put our hands together and pray, Father, show me what I need to be doing where I live? Because my climate is not like Danny's climate. My climate is different. I'm not facing what he's facing. He's facing heat and drought. I'm facing cold and wet. What do I need to do, Father? Instead of your hands being apart, why don't we try putting them together and asking God for the answers? Because he said in the book of James, you have not because ye ask not. And he also says, to him who asks, I will give liberally. Speaking about wisdom. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask it of God, who giveth liberally to all men. You got to ask. But you also got to believe. And guys, he said you have not because you ask not. And when you ask amiss. You ask with the wrong intentions. You ask to consume it upon your own lust. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We need to be legitimate. We need to ask, believing that He will give to us what we need, not what we want. There's a lot of things in this world I want. Some good for me, some not so good for me. But if you're not careful, God will give what's not good for you to you just as quick as He'll give you what's good for you, because it will teach you a lesson. So we need to be careful when we ask. Don't sit up there and say, Lord, just stop this rain. For heaven's sakes, please stop this rain. Because you know what? You might get a drought like we got right here with heat. And then you'll be praying for rain again. So, be mindful of what you ask. But don't lose your spirit. Because your spirit is what keeps you going. Your spirit is where your desires, it's where your dreams, it's where all those things lie. Because when you lose that, you've lost it. My daddy used to tell me when he had mules and horses and stuff like that, when they plowed the fields, he said, we try to break their will so we can use them. He said, but if we ever break their spirit, they're no good to us. He said, that's a fine line, son, when you're trying to break an animal's will. It's the same thing with the child. You can break their will, but you don't ever want to break their spirit. Guys, porch time today has been pleasant. Even though it's hot, the wind's blowing, and I have thoroughly enjoyed sitting out here. I've thoroughly enjoyed having a chat with y'all this morning. It's always encouraging to me to get an opportunity to sit down with you over a cup of coffee or a donut, a biscuit, or breakfast, or while you're just doing things around and you're just listening. Guys, these are always encouraging moments. Thank y'all once again for taking the time to turn on the Deep South Homestead and listen to us. If you're not subscribed already, please subscribe to us and hit the notification button so that anytime we're up, you'll know we're up, because we're trying to bring things to you that will better your life. We're not out here to do silly entertainment stuff, even though sometimes we may be entertaining. Usually that our Saturday night live show, we do a little entertainment there. But at the same time, we also try to answer some questions that you may have. Join us on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. I think you'll enjoy it. Set your notifications for that. Go ahead and hit the notification button. It'll let you know when we come live. Set a time aside to listen to us. Lots of people click into the chat. They enjoy it. Maybe we can answer some questions that you have. Maybe you just enjoy the fellowship with the other people in the chat. You know, it is our desire to bring together a community of people that are like-minded and enjoy one another's company. So guys, remember, don't lose your spirit. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.